Hello, Ben. Hello, Bernadette and Callie. I'm I'm assuming that I should be broadcasting. Please let me know if I didn't. All right, great. Super pumped to talk about product management today. Hey, Timothy, welcome. Got Bernadette on the call in Brisbane, Australia. Callie, I'm unsure where you are right now because you're moving around so much. Uh, did everyone want to drop where you're all based right now? I am in Melbourne, Australia. Oh, you're in Barcelona. Love it. Um, I've been on Bubble for the last probably 6 years. Um, I am a huge fan, and I have we've got another Kelly, Jordan Robertson. Welcome. I've been a Bubble developer for the last probably 6 years now. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. This is my first time using Zoho, so uh, Zoho, sorry, bear with me. Can you guys see my screen? Make sure. Can you all see my screen? Okay, great. You can see my screen. Awesome. So basically, just want to start off by saying thank you all for taking the time. I have been a Bubble developer for the last 6 years. Today, I want to talk about product management and realistically, like about um, how do we make our products so that people really want to use them, and how do we activate our users. So I think we all know this right now that Bubble makes building apps super, super easy and you can get something out the door very fast. However, building an app that people actually really want to use and then helping them to use it while someone's not there is really, really difficult. And so there are small things that you can do that have huge, huge impacts while you're building your apps. And so, just want to kind of share a bit about my experience before we jump into it. Is that yeah? So I've lived in San Francisco for about 6 years. So worked in Silicon Valley. Probably worked with about 100 different startups and large companies. A bunch of Y Combinator startups. I've worked with the North Face, Microsoft, Procter and Gamble, a lot of big companies, small companies, and so the area that I really specialized in was product led growth, and so a lot of that is focused on how do you once a user comes to your product from a landing page or SEO or whatever, however they found about your product, how do you activate that user? How do you get them to use your product and actually stick around? And then how do you think about retention and all of that stuff? So today I want to talk about activation, and how do we actually activate our users. And so I've also founded a healthcare company in when I was in San Francisco. I built this healthcare company, had it used by a bunch of large hospitals. The product was built for dietitians and also gastroenterologists. And so I worked side by side with dietitians and gastroenterologists for about 3 years. And I learned a lot about how important it is to make your product super easy to use, because most users don't have time to stick around, and um, the rate of which how good consumer apps are getting right now, design has really stepped up. So you need to build basically for the lowest common denominator, someone who doesn't know how to use your app. You just have to assume that they don't know anything about your app and how to do it. And so in order to get engagement and activation, you need to build in a bunch of guardrails and really push them into the right areas you're at. Um, I learned a lot of mistakes through my startup, and so I'll probably share a few of those with you. Please reach out if you've got any questions. Otherwise, we can cover the questions at the end. So just add any questions if you have any way. Again, so I've built a lot of consumer apps. I've been across like e-commerce, you name it, virtual reality. After the healthcare application that I built and the company that I built, I then moved into agriculture and I started building apps for farmers. And again, farmers who are out on the site, they're basically working super hard. They don't have time to mess around with an app. And if they can't find the right button or the app fails or whatever, you've lost them, right? And so again, this was a really great experience for me to understand how important it is to build products that people can use. So this is an example of the product that I helped to build. So as a product manager for this product, basically uses satellite imagery to understand exactly where and how much fertilizer to apply. So there was an advanced algorithm um, running predictive analysis on the satellite images. And so that's cool. Really sick product, awesome technical stuff in behind there doing that. But at the end of the day, no one cares unless people are going to use your product. And so there are a lot of key things that we learned from this experience. Um, and that when you're building products for people, you have to assume that they know nothing at all and you have to help them as they go through. And so as bubble developers, why is that important? I think the reason why that's important is that right now anyone can build software, right? And so in bubble, we're now in bubble here. Right now anyone can build software. So the bar is becoming higher and higher across it, just in the software industry in general, right? The bar is super high. People expect beautiful design, they expect beautiful interactions. And so if you put an app out there and it doesn't meet that standard, then you're going to instantly start to churn users. And so there are little things in terms of user experience that we can do to make our users' lives a little bit easier and help to push them in the right directions. And so before I jump into Bubble and some of the key tips that I have for you all, I just want to share a bit of a framework that I use across every single product that I work on. And it's called the Pirate Framework. Arr. I'm glad that no one can talk back here. So the Pirate Framework, right? And so this was developed by I think Dave McClure, who's someone from the startup community in San Francisco. And essentially, the Pirate Framework stands for acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. And so I always use this framework to look at products and how do I split out all of the different areas and aspects um, to really build a product that is going to get people in, activate them, retain them, and and then use the existing users to bring more users in. So you might have heard of viral loops. That's the same thing as what referral is talking about. And so this is a really great framework to have in mind when you're building your apps and to continuously improve each of these sections. I think that activation is by far the most important. And so I want to quickly share a few things. And in Bubble actually makes it super easy for us to do a lot of really sweet things to make our users' lives easier. So I'm just going to build some basic stuff here. Also, I should mention that I am definitely not the best Bubble developer in the world, very far from it. And so uh, this session is not about high technical prowess. It's about how do we build products that people are going to start to use and get get going. So a few of the key things that I learned from my startup is that when you do something in your application, when something happens, you need to tell the user, right? And so a lot of applications don't do this, and it is such hanging fruit. Um, and so when you save appointment, I'm just gonna just put that in. When you do something in the database, so CRUD, when you edit or you save something on behalf of the user and they do something, you should tell them you've done that. And so we can actually use a really basic alert um, and have that basically pop up at the top. I basically position at the top. I just change that to whatever color I want it to be. And this is a really basic thing that you can do. It's going to help your users. They're going to love you for this. They're gonna now understand what has happened. Have you ever been on a site where go to save something and it doesn't save? You think that it's happened, but it actually hasn't happened. Or you're left wondering why did this not work? So alerts and toast notifications, whatever you want to call them, are really, really helpful. And so the way you can set that up is add your alert on there. It automatically won't be shown, and then you can show the alert box, alert saved, and then you can change the settings on how long do you want it to fade in, hold, fade out. And so it's really, really helpful. I'll just demo that really now. But when you save stuff for your users, make sure they know about it. Ooh. That's probably tip number one. Um, and then, ooh, sorry, ooh, apologies. We should have this prior. So, but anyway, I think alerts are really, really helpful. So that's probably tip number one. Um, And then I think that also having um, another key thing that I think is really valuable is um, having having user onboarding. So um, Hopscotch, I think, is a really awesome plugin that AirDev has built. And so app queues, if anyone's used app queues before, app queues is basically like a user flows. It basically helps to guide people through. So you can create like a checklist of like when you're coming into the app, these are the 5 things that you need to do. And so you can do a quick product tour and show them like, hey, this is how you add your first this is how you add your first token or whatever. And Hopscotch allows you to do what AppQs does. It's pretty sure it's free. Yeah, it's free. And it's really awesome. And so you can do amazing interactive tours of your product so that rather than you having to sit there with every single user on a Zoom call and tell them how to do it, you can actually do it at scale and you can totally start to show them. And so I think that this is a really cool way to increase adoption of your products and increase activation. So hopscotch, step-by-step tours, great plugin. Um, and so I think other things is that I think I see a lot of bubble developers trying to design their own um, I think we try and reinvent the wheel, I think, a lot, and I think there's certain things where we wanna use our engineering prowess and, our creativity, and that it makes a lot of sense to do that, and then there's other times where we wanna take an existing design pattern, right? Because, um, most of the internet and most of the people use things in a certain way, and I'll give you a key example of this. The first startup I did, I built a hamburger menu, right? And I was like, this is great. And it was a hamburger menu in a mobile app. And then I brought it to a designer who is an awesome designer in San Francisco, has worked with some of the top tech companies. And he basically said to me, he's like, Interesting, interesting. Do you know why all mobile apps have the bottom nav? And I was like, "No, I don't know why." And he's like, "It's because everyone's thumb is at the bottom of the mobile phone." And so by you putting a hamburger menu in there, two things. One, you're going against existing behavior. And two, it just doesn't make any sense. Like I have to go all the way to the top of the screen. And so that stood out to me as being one of the key lessons that I had learned, is that you should go with the flow in terms of existing design patterns and existing behavior. If you're trying to make a user do something that they're not used to doing already, um, it's not a good idea. And like a lot of the times, like these big tech companies, there's a reason why they've created these design patterns, right? Like Airbnb, for example, they've probably spent hundreds of millions of dollars on user research and usability testing. And so if their design pattern works and it looks good, awesome, adopt it. And so I also try to I look at all of existing competitors and um, I try to find commonalities in their design patterns, right? And that helps me to predict what is going to work and what is not going to work. And so I think that's really important. I always use design libraries. I hardly ever build anything from scratch. And I think that part of the reason why I do that is because I can stick to a um, set set process. Um, for example, Basis Lab. Shout out to Josh if he's on the call. I'm not affiliated with Basis Lab at all. Absolutely love it. Um, is that having a design library absolutely changes the way that you approach things, because having this design library means that you are already getting design patterns from some of the best companies in the world. I know AirDev has Canvas as well, and there are a bunch. I think it's Atomic Components. There are a ton of other ones as well, and so having design libraries help you stay consistent. It really does, and it can help you focus on creating a really valuable product and focus on maybe some of the things. If you're a designer, I think totally go for your life, design it. But if you're like me, you're not a designer and you're a product person, you want to build valuable products, then really go with the flow with the design library and allow someone else who's done all the work for you to help guide your designs. So all these design patterns, they didn't come out of like like the person who started Basis Lab didn't just instantly think, huh, I feel like this is a good thing to do. They would have studied existing products and aggregated those design patterns, or at least taken a lot of inspiration from them. And so that's my top tip: is design libraries will help you build super consistent products. You already know that the usability works because they're adopted on existing products. And so that's going to help you create a really consistent product overall. Um, I think also that, yeah, so those are some of the key things that I think are really important. There are a bunch of other uh, things that I would do throughout the process. Um, I think if when you go through onboarding, right, um, when you go through an onboarding, one of the key things that you can do is add a scroll to. And so so let's just say you go through, you show one group and then you hide that group, you go to group two. A lot of times, right, if you don't add a scroll to, it's just going to go to where the user was previously. And that's a really terrible user experience. So you want to help bring them back to the top by using the scroll to step. And I've found this to be really cool and create a much better experience for users. And so you just choose the element at the top. Normally, I just choose whatever the header is, and then it goes right up to the top. This one is really basic, and you probably already know this, but it's basically clearing inputs from your from your forms. Really basic, but in case you don't have that one yet, definitely do that. Um, and so yeah, those are kind of some of my key tips, and I think it's really important that whatever you're trying to do in bubble, just remember that you know what you're trying to do so much better than anyone else. And I'm just gonna stop sharing now. Um, yeah, you know what you're trying to do much better than everyone else, and we sometimes as developers in um, we get stuck in what we're trying to build, and so I think that it's really important for us to um, yeah, try and get out of our own head and put ourselves in the shoes of our users and build things that are very, very valuable. So I'm just going to pause there. Any questions anyone has, or thoughts, or feedback? Vlad, Tim, Jordan, Kelly, any questions? Interesting. Um, how I vet train my team. Um, yeah, I think that when I'm hiring developers, the most important thing that I try and think, obviously technical ability is, oh, yeah, going to be probably the highest and most important thing. Um, but normally I want to make sure that people try and think critically, and they try and think about more than just hitting the steps. Like anyone can become a really amazing bubble developer and can execute on things. And so being able to think up and have awareness and have self-awareness is one of the key traits that I look for in bubble developers, because um, anyone can make something work, but think about why are you trying to do what you're trying to do. And so having that self-awareness, um, I also try and use Loom all the time, and I provide Loom videos, and I try and help them understand who is the end user. Why are we doing this? Like, for example, we built software for a nursing home recently, and I tried to get all of our developers to put themselves in the shoes of the families of who are going to be using this. Like, imagine if your mum was in the nursing home and you then had to communicate with her, and like, what would you want? What would you want to see? And so I think that's really important. Is don't treat your developers like they're machine gunners. Bring them into the loop and help them understand why are we building this product. We're all, at the end of the day, like, we are building things for people to use. It's not about building the most efficient bubble app. It's about building things that people use and love, and ultimately increase and change the world for the better. Um, and so yeah, I think that's really important. And it's the most fulfilling thing, right? Who the hell wants to build a bubble app that no one ever uses and no one ever cares about? Um, I think it's still fun. It'll be better for that. Cool. Any other questions anyone has? No worries, Kelly. Good question. Um, any other questions anyone has? Vlad, Tim, Jordan. Cool. Cool. Thanks, Tim. Well, I think that we're at time. Kelly, anything else you want to cover, or should we wrap up? Tim, Vlad, Jordan, Callie, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Awesome. Good stuff. Well, hopefully you guys got something out of this. Follow me on Twitter. Think I'm dmac_7. And I'm also on LinkedIn. Add me on there. And yeah, would love to connect and um, super stoked to be part of this community. And thank you so much, Kelly, for organizing this. You're an absolute legend. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.